it's my great privilege to host Chrigel Maurer today. You may have heard of Chrigel. He's probably the most famous pilot in our sport, and with good reason. He's won the Red Bull X-Alps 6 times, the World Cup overall 3 times. He's a legend, and he's also a very, very good coach. He does a lot of coaching at home in Switzerland. And I think what a lot of people don't get is the amount of hours of effort and work and dedication that goes into his success. Yes, he's very talented, but there's a huge amount of preparation that goes into his flying. So I'm really interested to kind of try and unpick that. I've got some great questions from some readers, which I'll be reading out. We're going to be discussing a bit of glider control. We're going to be discussing some meteorology, psychology, tactics, and we're going to be looking at a couple of videos as well together. What I would advise you to do is go to xcmag.com, download this sheet here. Really important you do that because we're going to be using that. And be ready with pen and paper. If you don't write down 3 things you've learned in the course of the next hour, then I've failed you, and so's Chrigel. No pressure, Chrigel. So, Chrigel, welcome. You're in Switzerland, right? Where in Frutingen, is that right?
Hi, everybody. Yes, Frutingen, it's the village I live. Very close to the mountains, and everything looks good here instead of not flying days.
Yeah, you said you had some good days last week, which were quite hard to sit and see. Is that right?
Sure. There was since the stay-at-home period, we had quite good weather. We had 5 or 7 very, very good days. Possibility to fly more than 200k, and for sure it's hard to stay at home. Otherwise, it's good to have the time for other things and to have no stress for sure.
Sure. And you took a real lead, didn't you? You came out and you said, "I'm not going to fly" in the middle of March. Was that an easy decision to make?
No, it was horrible because I really want to fly, but I was checking the risk and what we can do for the problem, and finally we say, okay, we have to know more know how it develops with the problem, and therefore I say better not to fly and wait. And now it's 3 weeks. For sure it was hard, but I think now we can see how to fly again, and then I think also we can have more enjoy the next flights because of great.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, let's get straight into some technique, if that's okay. With forward launches, so alpine normal launches for you, some pilots do them very differently. Some pilots have their hands a long way back with their risers far behind them, and others hold them kind of up here, up above their heads. What do you recommend for a really fast takeoff in the narrowest amount of ground possible?
Yeah, there is a bit different between the gliders, but especially with the high aspect D gliders or competition gliders, the problem is that the wing inflates and then the ears are faster and it comes together in front, and then start is not possible. So for this, it's better to have a straight shape when you lay the glider on the ground, put the ears in, and then hold the risers narrow to the shoulders.
Really? Okay.
And as more narrow, as better. So this is the first point. You maybe know that inflating backwards, you hold the risers together, and then this problem comes less. So that means forward comes closer together, it's more easy. And the next point is running as fast you can, and then if you feel the glider starts inflating, you push the arms forward.
Okay.
Very narrow and forward. And this input of 50 cm, it inflates the glider to climb better. And afterwards, run and check how it works. But normally the arm position more narrow and the move in front during the glider is 1 meter above the ground to the top. That helps a lot.
Amazing. Okay, I didn't realize that having the risers close together laterally makes such a difference.
Yeah. We tried a lot to have backward starts, if the wind is not more than 5 coming from the back, it's still possible to go backwards. And as long that you have the risers, the A risers in one hand, this problem with the V is much less. So it shows that it's important to keep the risers as close together. And so with the forward lunge, you can put this when you held the hands close to the shoulders.
Got it. That's something I've learned straight away. Thanks for that.
Yeah, it works with all the gliders. If you hold the hands wide, it works with the A and B wings. If you hold hands together, it works with all the wings.
Right. Okay. You continue to use an open face helmet when lots of pilots are using helmets with like the full visor. Is my helmet Chrigel?
Yeah.
So
perfect.
You don't go with that style. You're still with the open face helmet. Can you tell us why that is?
Yeah. My problem is that I really like to have my ears free, so to have the voice of the wind speed and the gliders. So I tried a full face helmet for several flights, but I not feel comfortable because the voice is damped, and I still have this helmet to be more free, to have better feelings. So I think that every pilot have to keep the helmet he really like to have, or if they think about another solution, just try it out with the helmet. There is not the big difference, but in some activities for sure that makes a difference. For some pilots, I heard the voice is too loud, especially when I flew with the hang glider. I had a 3-year hang gliding experience, and in these 3 years I had also a full face helmet because the voice is too loud on this one.
Yeah, for sure. And what sort of, I know these are very sort of simple questions, but I'm interested. What sort of sunglasses do you have? What tint do you have on your lenses?
I have 2 glasses. It's funny. My boy made different things. This is normal glass, what I use for sport in generally, biking, running, and hike and fly. The problem is if I have a long flight and a fast period, the wind goes under and my eye starts to run.
Right.
And if I do cross-country flights where I go for a long time, I use a closed sunglass where I really have my eyes safe and not too much wind on the eyes to have less burning eyes in the evening. So this is these 2 options I use, and then generally I decide, depends of the activity before. I mean, cable car or walking. I take the sunglasses.
And I noticed you had a yellow tint lens for better visibility.
Yeah.
Okay.
There is the. You really have to try out this one. It's a bit bright. During the summer, I have more dark glass, and also the contrast. You can choose so many glasses. I think that only problem it's when it gets evening, when it gets more dark, you can't see the cables very well. So to put also the glass off in the last meters gliding in the valley, it makes more safe. The visibility of the cables make it more safe.
Okay, great. Okay, you came and gave a fantastic talk in the UK in January, and I remember you showed a slide with your gloves, and on your gloves you've written some words. Can you show us what's written on your gloves and why those words are there?
Yeah, I made a new one to show you maybe better. I have two gloves, and one I read some points that I remember better, especially if I get stressed or it's in a hurry. I forget my points where I really want to focus on. And I have maybe one, they help me before the start. It means having a clear goal, where I go and what's the flight where I'm very happy in the evening. And then I think about my feeling. If I really stay healthy and I really want to fly, then I think about my resources. So if I'm stressed or tired or I'm really ready to fly, then there is a question about what I do. So the first step, where is the thermal, where's the danger, and so on. And maybe a good question about performance is what's the best case, what can happen, or what's the worst case that can happen. So just thinking positive, it's a risk, because if something happens, you're not prepared for example, for a collapse, or for an early bump out or a landing. So the worst case, it's also important to think about before the start. And then
there's another.
Yeah, I have two hands.
And amazing. Really that's why you fly so well.
It really helps to have one to think about before the start, and the other one during the flight, because during the flight there is a different situation, different feelings, different possibilities also. And therefore I ask many times about in which mode I stay actually, because it's not the right thing to think about the landing when I have to look for thermal. So I go to the mode thermaling, and then I watch out for thermals, for birds, for signs where I can go up, and I really focus on the climb until I stay on the cloud. And after, I switch in the mode glide to think about the speed, the good lines, the direction, the next thermal, and so on, but I not think about landing. And if I really have to land, I focus on the landing and not about maybe there is another thermal, or maybe I can fly even forward. So to focus on the step where I have to go. This is these questions. And then there is another question about stay I relaxed. So because stressful feeling not helps to focus on the mode, or on the, for example, to find the good thermal. Or sometimes in the harness I feel comfortable, sometimes I realize, oh shit, I'm not really relaxed. So if I can read on my finger relax, so yeah, I can fly relaxed. Because for the glider it's no different if I stay stressed or not.
Sure.
Then I have a question, what's my plan B or C? So what happens if the line is not working or the thermal is not working? We speak later on. Then about my feeling and my motivation, maybe, if it's still good or I can change something. And the last is to think about special options or special tricks to have more from the flight or more of the day. And it helps me also to focus and to keep the motivation still for the flight.
So that last question helps you tap into what it is you are enjoying about your flight. It's like a reminder to look around and notice. Is that right?
Also to gain more options, maybe, because sometimes I have an option. This is, for example, plan A, and I'm sure it will work. But as long I have this question, magic move, I think about another option, which is even better. And sometimes, as soon you have an option and you feel good, you stop watching out for different options, and this can break you down to have a better option. Mm-hmm. And I always try to stay open to see what happened can be better than what I have.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I mean, we could talk about so much just on those 10 fingers. Yeah. One I'd like to pick up on is, how would you advise a new pilot with maybe 50 to 100 hours? How would you advise them to use the plan B, plan C, plan D kind of rule? Explain why it's helpful.
Yeah, maybe you start to have the question, what's the plan A and B? So just two plans. Mm-hmm. And always, if you feel good to have an idea to find the thermal or a good line, you think about a second option, the plan B. A plan B also is a landing, an emergency landing, for example. As long as I have this plan in my head, I can focus on the plan A. So as long as I'm not really feel comfortable because I not have an idea where to land. I feel stressful, and I'm not free to focus on the terminal, for example.
So you've done a bit of pre-thinking about a plan B, so you can therefore focus more on your plan A, right?
Exactly. And this is the first advantage you get. The second advantage is if plan A is not working, you're not stressed because you have a good plan B.
Right.
So you directly can switch and not have to think about it. And thinking in the air needs time normally, and the solutions under pressure, under stress, are not, as my experience, are not good normally.
Yeah.
So as earlier you can think about the plan B and C, as faster and easier you can switch, have good options.
Yeah, makes sense. Total sense. We'll come on to some more psychology a little bit later on in the talk. I think next, shall we look at a video? And I'm just really, I think a lot of people have seen this video on your Facebook page. I want to kind of deconstruct the techniques you use during a strong wind launch. And this is in wind that is way stronger than I or most people would launch in. So I'm going to just put it up, and perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about the scenario. Is that okay? Like, where are you? What's going on?
Yeah, this was X-Alps 2011. I was day 3 in the area of Großglockner. It was very strange because there was a föhn situation. So it means more pressure on the south. It makes very strong wind in the north of the Alps. In the north it was not flyable, but in the south the weather was more dry, and the wind was about 33 up to 40. And I thought it's flyable because I know this wind speed from the training. And finally, I came to this place. It was a brilliant grass field, so no rocks or danger. So I walked down a bit. I not start on the peak because more down as less wind normally exists. And then I felt comfortable, and so I started. There was Paul Guschelbauer and also Thomas Coconea was with me. And I was watching, and after they also take this flight from Großglockner.
So I'm going to play it now, and I want you just to talk, if you can, talk through what you're doing with your control of the wing. Is that okay?
I tried to.
If not, I can ask you questions afterwards. It's fine. Okay.
Okay. First of all, I tried to control the wing blowing up with the brakes to put everything okay, and then I'm already airborne. So it means if the wind is more strong, it goes very quick. As soon I let the brake free or I pull on the air risers, it's not really 100% controlled, and I'm in the air. So the control is before I inflate the glider. It means the lines have to be even in the pack before quite good. The brakes is in my hands in the position I fly afterwards. And the most important, I need a very good feeling, a stomach feeling where I know that it worked well. Because stop the takeoff after inflating the wing, it's normally not possible.
Was your wing in a mushroom shape, or was it a Cobra launch?
It was a mushroom. It was 2011, so a long time ago. Now I also try the Cobra Start because when you have the possibility to let the wing on the side and then launching with the Cobra, it's normally more controllable. As soon the wing is in the power zone, it means in the mushroom or in front of you, it takes more energy. But also this wing was quite easy three-liner. It was 2011. The wings was more easy to launch anyway in strong wind.
I'm interested in this next section here because you're getting into your harness, and I notice you clap your feet together to get the dirt off.
Right.
And then it looks like your wing pitches back just after this. Can you tell me what's happening here? Are you pulling on the brakes? Are you using rear riser control?
Yeah, that was quite strange situation. First of all, in 2011 I not have this connection to my speed bag. So now I use an elastic connecting my speed bag with my shoe. And with this elastic, I can go into the speed bag, into the accelerator, the speed bar much more easy. So here it was a little less control in this case. But after I had some gusts, I mean, there was thermal activity and it pulls the wing more. And I was not sure how strong it comes. So my brake was maybe a bit overreaction, but I had to be clear that the wing not collapse. So that's why I have a so hard brake.
Got it. Okay. I've just got a great question in from Paolo Belize. He says, what was your plan B in this situation? If you'd launched and you'd had a cravat or a collapse, what was your plan B?
The plan B actually is to walk down to have the big grass field. So if something happened, there is no the peak where I can blow in the back, in the lee, or there is no too many rocks where I can have problems.
Yeah.
So in this case, the landscape was the plan B.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I also did some starts in very strong wind without the plan B, and this is a point where I really ask me myself if I get really an advantage of this risk or not. And in a training, for example, I do this in the dune or in the snow, in situations where I feel very comfortable if it's not working. To have the feeling to do it in a race, for example, because in a race I have an advantage if the start is working, and so then I can risk it.
So you had practiced situations where you would get cravats and tangles on takeoff in strong winds already before this moment. So going into this moment, it wasn't so scary.
Yeah, I really take a lot of takeoffs in strong wind with this wing, in this harness, before in the wind and the snow. So I realized to manage, to understand in which view the wing can have a cravat or not.
Okay.
So let my brakes free. I know 100% that it's no cravat for sure. Otherwise, I not let the brakes free.
So pen and paper. Takeaways from this: practice a lot of strong wind takeoffs before going to the hill to make sure you're very comfortable handling your wing. Mushroom the wing or set it up in a special way to launch. Be very, very confident getting into your harness and applying bar quickly whilst being on the rear risers on a two-liner if you're flying in strong winds and you need to. Is that right?
I would say
three things.
I would say these are very good points.
Thank you.
Maybe start. This I not explain well. Maybe start with the wind speed where you know that it works, and then try to go to a place where the wind increase step by step. I mean, trying with 15, then maybe 20, then 22, then 25. Go step by step. Maybe there is a place where it's very gusty, and the gusts can be between 15 and 30. Then it's even more difficult, and you improve. And if you go more than 30, it's already difficult to inflate the wind. So have your technique and try this as lot as possible. And as long as you stay in a safe field, you can go on and not do this really on a takeoff first time.
Okay, let's move on to our next one. And no one at Cross Country Magazine condones this landing at all. That's our insurance statement. This is obviously during the X-Alps. I don't know if you can see the picture, but where were you 5 minutes before being in this position of flying into quite a crowded valley with a lot of buildings and looks like a city on the left?
Yeah.
Describe the situation.
As you can see, the weather was cloudy and there was no lift at all. So I crossed the Valley, the main valley over Lake Geneva. And 5 minutes before, I was gliding and I could see all the situation, and I was heading to this point 20 minutes ago. So it was a very easy situation to plan to land safe finally. But the big question was, can I really land next to my best hiking trip, to the hiking road, where I calculated on my mobile phone? And the fastest road was the main road of the cars. And,
okay, so as we play this, I'd like everyone to just write down what dangers they can spot on this glide, and perhaps you can talk us through your thought process about why you chose this spot. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll press play now. Here we go.
First of all, there was some fields before this situation. Also here you can see some green fields. The only problem was not to see really exactly if they exist cables or not. So I heading to the road. I was always possible to fly left away from the hill. So I had some extra space to fly away. And I have my plan A. It means landing on the road. This is possible if no cars are coming. If there is a car or a truck coming, I have to fly left away. So this was my plan B. And so I was very lucky that the cars was not actually on this point. So I had no extra risk and was on the point of no return. I realized that it's possible for a safe landing on the right.
And it looks like you land in the lay-by. I can see the yellow lines leading away. It looks like you're just off the road.
Yeah. First of all, I also saw to land on the road, but on the last 5 seconds, I realized that there is a bus station, so it was extra space.
Okay, but you didn't spot that before?
No. It was behind the turn. If you can go back, there was a small right turn, and the bus station was behind this house, not visible for me, for here. And the exit was to the left, fly away, but I saw the car was away, so I can go to the yellow lines before. And after I realized that it comes even better, the bus station was big enough to have a good landing, even there is traffic.
After landing, did you think to yourself, I got away with that one?
It's there is it was day 6 on the Red Bull X-Alps, and I had all days several landings like this.
Right.
And there was something like a flow feeling. It was every day I not do something else than hiking, flying, eating, and sleeping. So I was really in this mode, and such a landing was quite easy because it was no lift, no thermals, no turbulences. It was not extra things where I not really control. So it was 20 minutes heading to this road, and I was really sure that it works if there is no traffic. And I had a plan B to exit. So it was, for me, it was not a special situation.
If you say so.
Yeah, finally, if I watch this half a year later,
it looks a special situation.
It feels good, to have these skills, because actually it's winter. I'm not experienced at all, and I not understand how I can do this. This at all. Yeah, it's interesting.
As I say, no one from cross country condones that landing at all. So now I think you've done lots of work, Chrigel. Let's get everyone else to do a bit of work. I hope everyone has been to xcmag.com and printed out their personal training form from Chrigel Maurer. Has everyone got that? If not, I can read it out. The reason we thought this would be interesting is because, correct me if I'm wrong, Chrigel, but when you first met Thomas, I'm going to get Thomas Turiat, is that right? When you first met in 2009, you hadn't met him before. You knew he was interested in psychology. You got talking. And when you decided, you agreed that he would support you, he asked you to write down how you'd feel and what you'd be thinking and what you'd be doing after getting to Monaco, after winning the race. So he really got you to think 8 months ahead before you'd even started training. And then from there, you unpicked what you needed to do to get there. Is that right?
That's correct, yes. Yeah, for me, it was a completely new think situation, because normally I move on and then there is a new problem, and then after I start to think how I can manage. And with Thomas, I learned to do the opposite. First, think about solutions. I am able to dream. I can dream the best solutions. I can dream how about winning. And if I really want to win the race, I have some ideas. And this is good to read down before the race. So there.
And when you say dream, you're not like, oh, yeah, I'd like to win. Oh, that'd be lovely. Oh. You're actually going, I'm imagining winning and I'm going to make this real. And this is how I'll do it. If there's something a bit more calculated about it than just chase your dreams, follow your dreams. You're being very practical about what you want and how you're going to get there.
Yeah, sure. Because maybe I can have an example of cross-country flying. I was flying, and then I was flying for 2 hours maybe, and I realized that I can fly 50K. So it was an advantage speed of 25 per hour. And then on another flight, I was able to fly 10 hours. But there was a horrible day, so not possible to fly 25K an hour. And then once it was a very good day, but I made some mistakes. I got 200. So I was very happy. But thinking about the best flight, that was easy, because I realized from my flights that I can fly 25K an hour, and I know that I can fly 10 hours. So why not to fly 10 hours 25? Means it exists at a flight of 250. And then this is the dream, which is based on facts.
Yeah.
It's not a dream. And for X-Alps, for example, it was a bit similar. I was able to fly in a competition. I was able to fly like Alex Hofer. He won 2005 and 7. So for me, I know that as long as I can fly, I can follow him and win the race.
So let's think about how we can use some of that for our own flying, because I think it doesn't matter if you just enjoy going and soaring on the dunes, or you just enjoy a little bit of thermaling at your local site. There will be a part of you that wants to do that safer or more efficiently or enjoy it more. It doesn't have to be like a performance goal list, does it? It's just something that you like to get out of flying, I guess. And can we use this form? So go through that and fill it out.
Yes.
Does that work?
Yes, for sure. This is some questions I did for you where you can go through now, because I think the personal goal of all the pilots is to have better flights or more safe situations. How to control the wing for 100%. And
right.
Finally,
sorry, carry on.
Yeah. Finally, the first question on this sheet also is, what's my goal? So a goal can be a performance. It means flying a distance, flying a competition and get some results. But it can also be a learning. It means that I can control the wing better, or that I have a better feeling. It means have a lot of ground handling and maybe a training, an SVV training over the lake to get more comfortable in full stall, for example. And finally, these are goals for the year to get a better pilot.
Yeah. So I think what I encourage everyone to do is to write down, think up 3 goals, maybe. And they could be, as you say, performance orientated or enjoyment orientated or safety orientated, whatever. Just write them down and make them more real, I guess. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I think to have different goals, it's also good, because depends of the weather, depends of your feeling. You can focus more on the performance goal, for example, or the mentality goals. And finally, to set goals, to know on the takeoff why you start and what you will reach in the evening. This is a part which gives me more fun also, or more sense of the sport I do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then the next part is, it says my strengths. So how do we analyze those?
Yeah, often I focus on my weaknesses, because I land, for example, and I'm very frustrated of a mistake I did, and then I'm not happy about myself, and this is very bad. So think about my strengths. This is a part where it makes me very happy. So if I stay at home and I dream about my next flights, I can think about my strengths. So if I know my strengths, I also can maybe focus my flights on it. Especially if I do a project like X-Alps or a normal PWC World Cup. If I know my strengths, I really can be happy about this, and I can focus on it. And this gives me more options, more opportunities, maybe to have also more fun during the race or during the flight.
So you're saying actually it's important to focus on the strengths, because that's what you're going to develop through more than your weaknesses. Is that right?
Depends. Normally, if you focus on your strengths, you can bring more performance. But if you focused on your problems, you're not able to bring more performance at the moment. So if you want to improve yourself, and this is the next question, is what's the weaknesses, or what are the points you can improve by self? But for this, you have to switch into another mode. It means in the preparation time, or in the time where, for example, like now, when it's not flyable, so you can work on your weaknesses to get more strong. So I hope it's understandable.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Strengths for the moment, to focus on the strengths, to keep in shape and bring performance, and work on the weaknesses during the training or the winter period, for example.
And then so the next bit is the next step. So that's what you're practically going to do to achieve your goals, work on your strengths.
Exactly, because if you just have some written down some goals or some strengths or weaknesses, it's nothing really change after. So it needs a vision, and then it needs a plan. And the plan is to have a next clear step. So what's the date of your training, or what's the hours you train or you fly a month?
And did you have Thomas keeping you honest about that? Because it's quite easy to write down a plan and then forget about it.
I remember there was a key point of us, because reading down these dreams, this is done in 1 hour. But to do the first step, to be controlled of a coach, this was the key of success.
I see. Does that relate to, I remember looking in your van, like in the first race, and you had checklists for everything. Like, what if this happens, what happens next? You know, what if we fall out? These are the steps we'll take. It was like you'd thought through every possible possibility.
Yes, we know that there was a bit of different situation, because in the race we know that we get more and more tired, that we do mistakes for sure, and to do less mistakes than other teams, for us was important to have checklists, to read the points, the important points, to stay focused, and finally it helps maybe a checklist for the next steps. A checklist when I check if I did the steps or not, and what's the results of my steps. Because if I never do the steps, for sure it's not an improvement. If I do the steps but not good enough, or the steps are too heavy or not in the balance, then maybe I have to adjust this. And why not to do this goals and strengths and weaknesses every year or every half a year?
Right, let's get stuck into it. Psychology. This is what we're all I'm interested in. You've covered quite a lot of psychology in your talks that I know you've done in Austria and Germany and the UK. And we filmed that talk, and it's going to be available for free to all cross-country subscribers tomorrow. So we'll send all our subscribers the link for that as a thank you. We appreciate you all. But I've got some, from that talk and from thinking about things since, I've got some questions about your psychology and what you've learned from working with Thomas. So can I ask you some of those?
Sure.
Okay. So basically, what I think is you're quite solution orientated, you're quite optimistic, and you're quite logical. And I'm going to try and outline some of your concepts and ask you to explain them some more. Yeah. So the first one you've already talked about. When you're flying, you're in a mode. You're in climbing mode, gliding mode, or planning mode. How did you come up with this kind of very practical way of focusing your attention on one task at a time? And how does it help?
Yeah, I was, even before X-Alps, I was working with this without thinking especially about this strengths. But for me, always it was clear that I can bring all my resources only to one activity. So I mean, thinking too many things, thinking especially about problems, it takes many resources where I can use for other things, for focus on the flight or on see important informations. So for this, it's for me a normal thing where I do in flight or in life generally. But with Thomas, we a lot speak about how you can think about this in a stressful situation. I mean, stressful means that I'm not open to see solutions.
Right.
Thomas, for me, it was very important to ask what I can do now, because when I was tired and in a hurry, I was not open to think about solutions. So he, as a coach, he just came and he asked important questions, and I, as an athlete myself, found the solutions, and I could continue with a good feeling, with the new plan, with the new motivation.
So essentially, like chunking down into you're switching between one mode or another is a way of increasing the amount of bandwidth, amount of mental energy you can spend on one aspect, rather than it being split amongst, is my wing okay? Where am I going next? Am I in the core? You're doing too much at once if you're not focusing on one thing. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. That's, for example, before the flight, maybe I can think about everything, but during the flight, while looking for a thermal, while focusing on the variometer for climbing, in this time thinking about everything, it not helps for climbing, for example.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. All right. The next question, you have described paragliding as being somewhere halfway between flying a helicopter, where you have full control over where you go, and being a sycamore leaf blowing in the wind. So you're kind of in control about where you're going to a fair extent, but not really 100%. How do you apply that in practice, that thinking of, this is my level of control?
Yeah, that's it's, for me, it's very important to be realistic. It means my dream is to fly straight in climb and full speed, but this is not realistic. So if I come into a place where strong wind, for example, a thunderstorm or föhn exist, I have to realize that I'm not able to control my flight anymore 100%. So thinking like a driver of a hot air balloon, it helps me a lot, because the hot air balloon have no engine and no speed, so he's not able to manage his flight. He's only controlled by go up and down, use the right wind. And this helped me to have, in this situation, even options to continue my flight. So if I start thinking where the wind blow me and what I can do, maybe if there is a good option, then I can progress and still have a good feeling for it. This is the most important.
So actually, by kind of acknowledging you have, there is a limit to your control, you're actually opening up more options about how to extend your control by going higher, going lower, whatever it is.
Yeah, finally I can't go up, but I can go with the wind. So this is the normal thing I do when the wind comes strong. I go with the wind, because you just can think about the problem against the wind, or you can have the help of the wind and go with the wind.
Yeah. Okay.
Take the wind as your friend.
Yeah. The next one is your motto is give luck a chance, and you talked in your talk about if you give luck a chance enough times, it'll work out more times than not. So it will improve your flying, your performance over the day, which I kind of get. But lots of XC pilots are really cautious and worried about landing early. They don't want to land early. They want to stay in the air a long time. They might be seeing other pilots leave on a glide and hang back in an okay thermal. What advice would you give to pilots to help them tolerate that uncertainty that is inherent in flying?
Yeah, this is a good example. When you stay in this thermal, you think about you have something which exists, and if you start to glide, you go into a place where nothing exists. So
this is deep. I love this.
Exactly. And for me, in my head, as long I had climbed here, for sure it will climb there also. Okay. So it's the same when I start gliding and there is no signs about climbing. Some pilots, they fly back, but I know that thermal activity is not constant lift. Normally it's bubbling, it's the cycles are coming and going, so the chance to have lift in front, it's exactly the same like in the back. So
and how do you deal?
Always fly straight and think about the next cycle. Do your plans, plan A, B, and C. Maybe in Flatland it's more difficult because it's less signs than in the mountains. But the experience shows that as long as you fly straight and you watch out for a lift, normally you will find one.
That hasn't always worked out 100% for me.
Yeah, for me too. That's why I like to fly in the Alps.
How do you find flying in the flatlands?
I had some really nice flights where the thermal everywhere exists. So to fly straight and have no lee, for example, no danger, it feels brilliant, especially when you can cover with the backwind a big distance, like in Brazil or Australia. It feels really nice. But on the other side, on the mountain, I get a better feeling because I know on the ridge there is a lift for sure, and it helps me to be maybe more relaxed during the flight. Yeah.
Great. Okay, I've got some questions now from some readers. The first one is tell. This is from Roger. Why do you always seem to wear long socks?
For walking, I use long socks because normally there is some dirt from the road or from the grass. The grass, it's like peeking me on my foot, and then it gets a painful reaction. So for me, the long socks are good for cover my legs. And on the other side, there is compression, and in the high school they say the compression is better for the muscles. So, but I not feel a big effect. But for me, it's good to have a more clean foot to have no pain.
Okay, the next one is from Marius Petriman. He says, "Hi Chrigel, suppose you took a bad decision and got yourself into rotor turbulence, which cannot be avoided any longer, and you can't escape from it. What would be a good approach and strategy to deal with it in order to land safely?"
Yeah, sometimes if you can exit it will excite you. How do you say? It pushes you out finally. But the mistake is done before. To realize that you make the mistake, that you are in the bad situation, it not helps to think about solutions. Sometimes it's just to have the control of the wing, to keep the wing open and to steer in the direction you can escape. So I mean, if you stay on a cliff, to steer the wing away from the cliff, to have as much height as possible and to fly away. But often there is strong sink and turbulences, and for sure there is it's a limitation of steering the wing, and it makes it very stressful for sure. And I would say that 99 or 98% of my flights in generally are very controllable, and there are some risk that I can have no control of my wing, and to be lucky in this case, it's important.
Have you been in a situation like that?
Yeah. I mean, on a flight, cross-country flight from 10 hours, some minutes, depends of the place. Sometimes there is just 3-4 seconds, but in these seconds it's not controllable. And finally I fly 22 years, and I realized often that it was over my limit. It was more than 100%. So I was lucky to have no contact to the ground, just some turbulences. But on the other side, I tried to have always enough distance to the ground, in a very good feeling and a very good shape, so I can react as good as possible. As soon my feeling gets bad, my thinkings about turbulences and problems goes too big, I have to escape before I into the problem.
I've got an interesting one here from Thomas Milko. Sorry if I got your pronunciation wrong. So how can flatland pilots gain confidence flying in the mountains where the systems are very local and complex with the winds, and it's hard to kind of memorize it all? How can you help flatland pilots build a picture of how the air works in mountains?
Yeah, it's maybe the same like when you ask a Swiss guy how to swim in the ocean. It's a different world, and you know experience. So take a guide or take some friends, they have experience, I go with them and go step by step.
Yeah.
But what can help is to see how the water it's flowing in the Alps. So if you turn the world, you can see the ridges where the water drops away, the valleys, it's the river, and then it helps to understand how the thermal can flow, and then where they can drop and where you can catch it.
Got it. Okay. Here's another one about fear. Are you fully relaxed in the air, or is there a percentage of the time when you're scared?
Maybe not scared, but it exists often that I hold my risers and I think, whoa, what happened now? But it's just for seconds. And when I really on tension, it's when a thunderstorm is coming, and I know that the outflow of the rain, the cold air, makes very strong wind on the ground, and I fly against, and I know I have to land once in the next minutes, but I wanted to do distance. So this makes it very stressful, because I know if I land too early, I'm pissed off because I have to walk in a race, for example. If I land too late, I get really trouble and strong wind landing. So I risk my life. And this is the fear I feel during a flight, for example. But the fear, because of turbulences, they are very, very quick. It means there is a collapse. Shit, and then it flies again, and the fear is there is no time for fear.
I'm sure that So the fear comes and goes quickly for you. Yeah. Okay. Let's have a look. See what else we got. Do you fly in terms of that? Do you fly any differently now now that you're a dad of two sons than you did in your early 20s in terms of your attitude towards risk?
Yeah, I grew up in the mountains, and I hear a lot of problems or accidents of other pilots or also mountain guides. I know the danger of the activities. So for me, it was good to understand that I do an activity, but it's a high risk. So mountaineering already, it's high risk. Ski touring with the avalanches, and when I started flying, when I was young, I realized not really how dangerous it can be. I always had the feeling there is my glider and I can steer it and I have the control 100%. And when I got older, when I got more experienced with my acro glider, for example, I realized that there are many scenes or moments where I not have the full control. And after 16 years, I had a hard landing. I broke my leg, and especially with this landing, I just got downwash. I don't know why, because there was no really signs of wind or turbulences. But I crashed quite hard. It was maybe like coming down with the rescue. And I asked myself, what happened? What I can do to not have these accidents? And I got no answer. So it was just a bad moment. But I thought after 16 years without accidents, okay, it's a part of risk where I have to take, because the sport, the paragliding activity, they give me so much. I can earn or I get feelings that are unbelievable. And so I really go in the air with a good feeling, but I also know that I can fall down.
Yeah, that makes me think of two things. One, the difference between being in a competition environment like the X-Alps, where there's a lot of pressure to wear the right hat and all the rest, and then the freedom of being out in the mountains enjoying the sunset, and that contrast. And also, your XC flying, and then the picture of your tree in your glider in the same tree last year and 10 years before.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lot of contrast in the sports.
Yeah, for sure. And sometimes people, they think about my experience will save me forever. So 6-time X-Alps winner, for sure, nothing can happen. And for me, myself, I know that every flight is a new flight. Every moment I have to control by myself. I really have to focus on this moment and not think about success from the past.
I'm curious about the way you fly in wind in mountains, and this is something that will be way beyond my skill level. But you seem to be able to surf in the lee of the wind, close into mountains, a bit like a salmon fish swimming upstream.
Yeah.
Can you say any more about that? Is that something you've learned over several years, or?
This is very, very different from the place and the situation. Often it works when the mountain is like this, the wind coming from here, that it's a rotor exists, maybe with the sun, and I have lived here in the shadow because of the rotor, and it takes, but it's never, it's not a clear strategy like soaring in the wind, for example. It's different, and the gap between flying safe and straight and falling down in turbulences, it's very, very small. So the tactic is to think about this option and to try it out if possible. If it's work, I really enjoy. If it feels not good, or I have some signs that it will not work, I fly away straight. So not pushing and think about, it will work for sure, it will work for sure. It's like flying in a fern. Fern, it's very uncalculatable. So it can come very quick. The wind can increase from 0 to 60. And then for me, it's not flyable anymore. And in the other side, fern can be perfect for soaring. You can fly in fern conditions like we did in X-Alps. Already we can cover 150K with fern conditions, it's no problem. So fern, it's a very difficult situation, a wind situation, where you have to be very careful, fly always with a good feeling and a good plan B, and make small steps, small planning, and ask you as soon as you think you have to.
Just continuing the conversation about flying in mountains, and we've had a few questions about how do flatland pilots transition to the mountains. Something I've struggled with whenever I go back to the mountains is how close alpine pilots fly to the face. They seem to fly, if you're going around a mountain, it seems like, I'm trying to get my hand in the right place, but the closer you are, the less height you lose. Whereas as a nervous flatland pilot, I go a long way out and then sink out. Why is that?
Because the face, the mountains or the trees, they got warm from the sun, and on the ridge there is always a bit of air. They go up, and as more far you go away from this, as less air mass goes up. So that's why we try to fly as close as possible, and close sometimes mean 1 meter. And if you really follow the ridge, you can earn always a little bit of warm air going up. As soon you go away, you have nothing, and the glide is down.
It seems that there's more, if you're flying into a headwind around a cliff as well, it seems there's less wind close into the cliff than further out. Is that right?
This is another point, because of the drag of the earth, the wind speed is less close to the mountain, close to the ridge.
Of course.
As far away you go, as less drag for the wind, and the speed increase. So it's always more efficient on the cliff. But if you get any problems, collapses or sink, for sure it's no plan B, and it's also more danger. So dealing with this risk, for me, it was very good to have this experience in the competitions, because there was 100 other pilots. When I was not so experienced, I had 100 in front of me, and I can analyze what they do. And when I got more experienced, I can also push and try it out, and also steer. As long as I have a good feeling, I can fly in front, try it out. When I think about problems, I can wait and let the others fly. So it's a very efficient way to learn how it works.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess, I mean, I'm interested in your big triangle from last year, and how you used the easterly faces very early on in the day, because you seem to use the ridges in a really clever way. I mean, you did a 345-kilometer triangle as your warm-up flight before the X-Alps last year. Can you tell us a bit about where you started from in the first hour or two of that flight?
Yes, this flight, parts of this flight I already did, so I know how it works well and what it's not so efficient. But we have this ridge, east face ridge from Nielsen to the west, and it's working very early in the morning, so I can not really terminaling, but I can fly straight and have always about zero. And we are able to cover the first hour in for 30k, and it starts very fast already, but flying without speed, just follow the ridges. And then they increase. We need then higher base to cross the valleys direction Start and like Geneva. And then in generally the days have to be very good to have this big triangles to cross the Alps. This is always the problem. And the wind have to be very calm, because of crossing the Alps without wind is important. And we also have northwest face in the evening. So the sun and the valley breeze comes to this face, and it gives another 40-50k in the last 1.5 hours of the flight. So it's a very good spot here to have early starts and long flights. And and generally it's always good to having a spot where the thermal starts very early. But I was very impressed about the flights in Brazil, for example, because the ridge we have is steep and the sun in the morning comes really right angle, and normally it gives the most heat. But the sun here on this ridge starts at 5:30 maybe, and the thermal activity we have very late, maybe at 8:30 or 9. In Brazil, the earth is flat and the sun comes very flat on the earth, but the activity, it's 1.5 hours later. So I was really impressed that the sun comes 5:30 and we already get lift at 7.
And when you take off in the mountains, what time for the a big triangle? What time are you taking off, and what time do you hit the first lift? Is it straight away, or are you doing a long glide? I saw a video of you and Michael, your brother, doing a massive glide before even starting to get lift.
Yeah, we did different takeoffs, but normally we get lift on a good day at 9. So it's the sun starts at 5:30 or 6, and at 9 it's working. But on this is for a serious cross-country flight. But on X-Alps, where you do a glide in the morning, it's allowed to fly from 6. So sometimes I did a glide, or I wanted to do a glide at 7, for example, and I already got 3-meter climb at 7:15. And this was an amazing experience. I never thought about this strong lift at this time, but it exists.
Amazing. And you also, in the X-Alps, I remember following you, and you were at 7 in the morning gliding very, very slowly along the woods, just almost maintaining for a long time.
Yeah, this is another phenomenon. This is in a valley when it's like this, and the cold air from the side goes into the valley. It comes together in the middle and climbs. It's not really climbing, but the glide angle, it's not 10, it's 20. And normally it blows out of the mountain, so the speed it's 50 instead of 40. So this wind conversion and the backwind gives you a glide angle of 20. And if you start quite high, you can glide a long distance. This is working in the morning when it's cold, and also in the evening when the shadows from the mountains exist.
So let's skip forward to 2 in the afternoon. You're in a 10-meter climb. You've had one of those moments when you grab the risers, as you say, and you're wondering what's going on. What helps you with your confidence in strong air? Is it your acro training? Is it SIV? What do you recommend for pilots to develop those skills to be able to fly in strong conditions?
In generally, I think as more experience you get, as more relaxed you stay. So flying different wings, for sure it helps. Flying a lot of hours, it helps. And in generally, there is the person maybe made for the sport or not. So for me personally, I not like to swim in the water. I feel horrible in the water, so I'm not made for the water. And in the air, I feel comfortable. I remember in the past I already felt comfortable. Maybe when I see the training of an acro pilot like Theo de Blic, he really tried maneuvers where I thought about maybe not the best feeling for me, and he looks even more motivated, and he looks very in a good feeling also in this hard maneuvers. And so the differences of the people we have to accept. And finally, as more hours I can fly with my equipment, as better feeling I get. And this is one of the goal I have for my competitions. It's not important to have a lot of hours in the winter when the competition is in summer, but in these 3-4 weeks before the comp, I need the hours to have the good feeling.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Interesting. Okay, we've got another couple of minutes left. So thank you very much for your time so far, Chrigel. 2 questions for all of us, really. Let's say you're a pilot who lives in the mountains and you've got regular access to be able to take off and do a flight over the valley with 500 meters to spare. What would you encourage that pilot to be doing to develop their glider control skills?
I think that while doing the flights, actually, you get better control. But in generally, I try to keep my glider above my head. So the pitch control are very important. It means if the glider is pitched in front, to break them back. If you do it by brake or by the back riser, it doesn't matter. Just break it back. And sometimes pilots think about the 100% brake and the stall point. I have the experience that when it's very rough and the glider shoots, that you can brake 120% for a second. And it needs so much brake, but people not trying braking so hard because they have this 100% in the head. So it needs the really hard reactions. And the same it's with the acceleration. When I push with my feet the bar, I can keep my wing above me with releasing and pushing my legs, or I can have the control with my back risers. While I fly with speed, I not touch the brake because this makes the glider more unstable. So the brakes I always need after releasing the speed bar. For sure, when it's very rough and when the glider starts collapsing, I go out of the speed bar and I brake with the back riser or the brake the glider in the same time, for sure. So otherwise the glider collapse. But in generally, no brake with the bar.
Of course. Oh, my mind's gone blank. Yeah, what about a pilot who lives like a place where they can go ridge soaring and they only really get 100 meters of altitude? What could they be practicing to help them with their glider control?
There is a very, very important training is the ground handling, because playing with the wing on the ground, it gives you a lot of experience you need, or the reaction you need in the air. So pitch control, or when the wing is collapsing, to reopen it, it's more easy and more smooth on the ground, but it's almost the same feelings you need. And as soon you can start and you can soar a bit, you can top land. And if you can top land, you can do this several times a day, an hour. And the top landing is a goal where pushes you to do something a bit special, because you have to go more than just relaxing in the harness. You go more to your level of skills. And if you try this, and you have to go more with the brake, you have to control your glider automatically more, and this skills helps you also during cross-country flights.
Sure. Amazing. Well, thank you, Chrigel. That's been fantastic. I'm just wondering what are you looking forward to doing this year? You seem to do so many different things within flying. What's really exciting you at the moment?
I really, especially in these nice days, I wanted to fly cross-country, crossing the Switzerland and enjoy the Alps. For this, I really hope to do now, but also the competitions, the hike and fly competitions. I wanted to run and to have the decisions and to see how it works. I planned several competitions during the year, but we will see which one are working and not. But I really hope to do X-Alps next summer in 2021. And yes, I have these goals, and it makes me motivated to training, to optimize equipment, to think about strategies, and
Do you think your application for next year's X-Alps will be accepted?
I hope so. I hear that it starts in July. And now I have a look about the team, about the logistic, and finally we will have a registration, and then the team will select us. I hope so, to start everything new.
I don't think I need to wish you luck for that. I think it'll be fine. thank you very much, Chrigel. That was really, really generous of you to give so much time and to answer so many questions and to reveal a lot of the sort of strategies you use, including your gloves with all the key words that help you organize your thinking. So it's been fascinating. I hope everyone else has found it useful too. I'm sorry we haven't got to answer everyone's questions. But we do. We have a stack of magazines. Look, that's Cross Country Magazine. And we publish 10 of those a year. And if you don't subscribe, think about it, because we've got fantastic columnists. Chrigel sometimes does articles for us. We've got Hans Reismanek, the meteorologist, Gavin McClurg, Bruce Goldsmith. Loads of really good pilots write articles that help pilots fly better. That's what Cross Country is. It's about that partly. It's also just about the love of flying and the stories and the adventure and everything else. So, thank you, Chrigel, for your time. We've got other pilots next week. We've got Russell Ogden, I think, next Friday, possibly Jin Sok Song on Wednesday, a few others. So, I hope everyone's doing okay. And thank you again, Chrigel.
Thank you much, Hugh. And I was happy to speak about paragliding after 3 weeks of not flying, and I wish you all the best for training and a nice first flight after the break. Have fun.
It's going to be amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that the weather stays.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Take care.
Cool. Have a nice day and all the best, and see you soon. Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Done.
Cool.